Hey everyone, welcome to the product briefing series of the Hun Club podcast. This is where we dive deep into our technology and explore what it really means for our security team. If you have been enjoying our content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, we are going to talk about using metadata for investigation and forensic analysis. My name is Tiffany Nip, Product Marketing Manager at Vectra AI, and I'm joined by Julian, our security engineer at Vectra AI. Julian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Tiff. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been with Vectra now for the better part of 3 years and only recently moved into the security engineering role. Before that, I was part of our MDR team for 2.5 years, working there as a security analyst and of course also point of contact for our customers. And especially talking about these kind of things, presenting our findings and so on.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll get all the tips you have from MDR and also your current experience. So let's dive into it. So previously, we've spoke about 3 use cases for metadata during threat hunting. Let's go to the next 2 slides. And today we're going to dive deeper into what each of them mean. Julian, can you give us more example on how you've used metadata for investigation and forensics for customers?
Sure, I think that's kind of the first use case that comes to mind for everyone. Of course, it's kind of a no-brainer in a lot of conversations. I need to keep the metadata just in case. And usually what you have in mind is just to have, the data as to support for your investigations and forensics in case of an incident. And usually your usage of the metadata then is, of course, triggered by an event, by an incident, by detections within Vectra on one of the prioritized entities.
Got it. So let's look at more examples that you can show us about this use case.
So I think it's very situational on like what exactly you will do within the metadata then if you are using it from this kind of direction. There are loads of different kinds of opportunities and things you can find out or validate with the data that you have stored here in our investigate feature. Just a few ones that came to mind when I was kind of preparing for this is whenever there's some kind of detection activity, so some anomalies, some suspicious activity, and port 445 is kind of involved. That, of course, will mean I will want to check the SMB metadata and maybe also NTLM for the authentication for that time frame and the entity that is involved to see if there's anything that jumps out and like any file paths, any things that really stick out just from what I would usually expect this host or account to access via SMB.
Yeah.
Another one is actually within the sign-in logs that Vectra ingests to also generate detections around cloud logins in Azure AD, or now called Entra ID. There's a lot more information included in these logs that we usually like present within the detection. And it goes as far as like, is the device compliant or managed and registered in the tenant and everything. So I can even show a few things there in the demo platform. Do you want me to do this now or
of course,
jump to it later?
Yeah.
All right.
We can hop onto the Vectra AI platform to see what we can see in there.
Perfect. So I just have a few things open here. So for the first one, for these login behaviors in Entra ID. It's of course possible that you get a detection for an account where we actually saw some suspicious login behavior, and maybe also already some suspicious post-login behaviors that really are relevant for it to be prioritized and really classified as a kind of a critical alert an analyst should look at. One other perspective you can take is come to the Discover page and this Azure AD dashboard that we have, where you can see a lot more statistics around all the logins in your tenant, no matter if they result in a detection or not. And from my experience, a lot of customers kind of get a bit freaked out when looking at this section, Azure AD failed logins here. Let me zoom in just one step here to make it a bit bigger. Because the numbers here in our demo platform are of course not representative. A lot of organizations will see thousands of failed logins here, and even thousands of failed logins for one account. And in nowadays, that's perfectly normal in a cloud context, because the login page, of course, is public in a way. And then your measures like conditional access, MFA, and so on, they do their job to prevent the logins to be actually successful. But if you see such a big number here, you might want to find out more about where the logins are coming from, or just generally about this login behavior and why they are failing, for example. It could, of course, also be a kind of a misconfiguration, and it's always interesting to look into it further. So you can just grab one of the accounts here, come to investigate, and I already have it here. You would set the data source to Azure AD and M365, data stream to sign-ins, so looking through the sign-in logs, and then put a filter on user principal name and account name. And there's just a bunch of stuff you can find here about these, all logins for this account, in this case for the past 14 days. And then what you might want to do, because you've seen there are so many failed logins, just say, I want to set another filter on error code, add to query, and then we will just figure it out. So we'll say is not 0. So any error code basically is what we are looking for.
And you will be able to also save this query after a while. And so you can just always go back to the platform once in a while to look at the same query and look at the failed sign-in information.
Yeah, sure. So you now get the error codes and also a failure reason here stated why the logins failed. And there's sometimes very interesting things to find here. And as you said, you can save the query, reopen it at another time. If you are saving the query, it will actually also keep your the columns that you chose and their order, you can drag them around. And if you adjust the view to what you want to see, especially for this query, this will all be saved with the query. So if you come back to it later, it's what you're used to. Jumping back to the slides. Of course, there's just so much more that you can do. One thing I like is if I have an kind of an incident and I'm tracking what kind of IPs are involved in the incidents, what kind of IPs might have already been touched by an attacker. It's also always good to check the DHCP logs and really verify what was the IP of the device I'm looking at a certain point in time, because of course it can change if the lease of the IP runs out in the meantime and so on. That's one purpose for the DHCP metadata, but you can actually also find DHCP spoofing attacks or rogue DHCP servers by looking at the metadata. And maybe you will stumble across supposedly a DHCP server IP that you've never seen. but
Right.
if you know your organization, you will usually know your DHCP servers. So there's potential there to find a lot of stuff. And same for LDAP and other protocols. That's
Yeah.
just a little rundown of a few examples I thought about.
Yeah, of course. And it looks like it can really shows the full blast radius of the attack. So security team can go and look for all the hints or all the spillover even of the attack and to make sure they can stop all the related attacker behaviors in the environment.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Julian, for running through our first use case. This is the wrap of this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks everyone for joining as well. And if you find this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, or leave us a comment on your thoughts. And we hope to see you in the next product deep dive. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.